If we are, welcome to the first ever live streaming of my new podcast, Rating for Success. And let's find out. The framing, move a little. Wait, are we live? We are. Awesome. Okay, let's just get to it. Are you looking for real, lasting change in life? Do you want to experience life at your full potential? Of course you do. You clicked on this live stream. And with Atomic Habits, I am going to deliver. My name is Faye Robertson, and this is Reading for Success, the podcast that proves once and for all that knowledge is power for those who know how to use it. And that would be us. First of all, I had to kick this podcast off with Atomic Habits. I talk about Atomic Habits all the time in my videos, and throughout this podcast episode, you will understand why it's a very powerful and useful book. And of course, the link to the book is in the description, Amazon affiliate link. I would really appreciate it if you used it. If you're getting the book, of course, you don't have to get the book, and of course, you don't have to get my link, use my link, but it does really help, and I do appreciate it. So, the thing I love about Atomic Habits is, of course, that it's actionable. On Zoetopia, I try to always keep my advice actionable, and I really do appreciate others who do the same, because it is great to have all of these concepts and science and even spirituality, but if it's not actionable, then it's, it's not that useful. But Atomic Habits is. And Atomic Habits is basically a book that in a way, has to be actionable because it talks about the lived experience of the author. James Clear got hit in the face with a baseball bat when he was, I believe, like 11, maybe a little bit older. And he was obviously playing baseball when this happened. He was a big baseball type of guy, and he got brain damage from this, had to take life really slow and couldn't play baseball, couldn't do all of these things he really wanted to do. But what he did do was focus on improving his life in every way he could. So he'd clean his room, make his bed, do his homework, and just be best he could be then and there, and improved his life slowly but surely. And by building these great habits and this amazing ground, what do you want to call it? And basically these building blocks for his life, he was able to actually play college baseball after having suffered such a severe injury. That is insane. And that's the whole point, that these small changes lead to great things. Life isn't made up of weddings and funerals and college graduations. They're made up of small moments day to day. So I do appreciate that this book is lived and not just him, pretending and being like, oh, this would be cool, this would be cool. It's actually him, the author, James Clear, having pulled himself out of a very tough situation and learned something where he has a lived experience and can give us actionable tips. So, moving on to the takeaways. I sort of talked about this, but takeaway number one is that tiny habits lead to remarkable results. So what he wants us to do first and foremost is to look at a day in our lives and look at every single little action we take throughout the day and put a plus sign or a minus sign besides it, which I think is brilliant, because the point isn't that everything you do has to be a plus sign and everything in your life needs to be perfect. You have to only drink water, you have to get up at 5, you have to take a cold shower. That isn't the point. But if life is balanced, the balance should go more over to the positive things. You should have more plus signs than minus signs. But again, here you shouldn't judge yourself. Just first of all, before we can even start to change our lives, we need to know, what are we changing? what is working, what isn't working, and get a realistic overview of our life. So, for example, for me, I would say some plus signs are getting up early, working out, taking vitamins. Some minus signs that I still have would for sure be drinking energy drinks is my number one. Maybe I sneak in a little Snickers bar before I go to bed. That's a pretty big minus sign for me. And again, I don't necessarily want to change everything about my lifestyle, but I have done this and looked at several things and implemented changes. I didn't used to take my vitamins. I did not used to drink water, and I'm going to talk more about water later. I was really, really bad at drinking water, and a lot of other things really that I worked on. I'm still working on myself, but I will say that the reason why I talk so much about this book is because I have just used so heavily the tips in this book to be able to implement all these habits and changes in my life that have helped me come from a place of having 10 years of insomnia, having depression, anxiety, to now getting up early and doing things and actually being happy throughout the day and being able to sleep without medication, things that I honestly never thought were possible that turned out to be possible with the right steps. So I do believe in this. So once we know this, we can start changing our lives. But like it says, it's about fulfilling your potential 1% at a time. Like I said, James Clear didn't jump back into the gym and jump on the baseball course. I mean, he couldn't, but he also knew that you need a strong foundation. Foundation is the word I was looking for earlier, by the way. Is this a little bit too close? I feel like it is. So we need a strong foundation, and the habits we have are supposed to be habits, aka habitual. They're not supposed to be this spur of a moment thing that we try to do for a couple of weeks and fail at eventually because we're changing too much. I've said this before, you can't change your whole life at once. Instead, choose one habit that you want to implement every week or every other week. Work on that. Once it's actually a habit, then you can move on to another one. And we're going to talk a lot about how to actually implement these habits very specifically. But first of all, think about, look at your plus minus thing and then look at what do you want to change, what do you think you can change, and maybe start with the easier changes first so that you get some momentum going. And just focus on being 1% better every day. You sort of gotta start small to go big. It's like we've seen a lot of talk about with Chappell Rowan, which has always been a thing. It takes years to become an overnight success, right? We see people's big changes, like for example, a big weight loss, or someone leaving a relationship, or someone starting a company, and we're like, oh my god, that happened all of a sudden. It probably didn't. It's probably been in the background for them for months or years or whatever, but then when the changes actually happen, that's when we see it. So we got to focus on making small changes behind closed doors, and then we can come out and share our big changes. Another key takeaway in this book is how closely related habits are to identity. This is really, really important because basically our brain never wants cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when our actions, words, and emotions don't align. Our brain really, really wants to align. It always wants everything to make sense. That's why sometimes our brains will make up memories. Sometimes our brains will trick us with our vision, with our hearing, because it's always just trying to make sense of whatever's happening around us or happening in our lives. That's sort of what it does. So if you are saying like, oh, I'm going to the gym, even though I'm not really the type of person to go to the gym, oh, I'll try to run, but I'm not really a runner, or oh, I'll go on this diet right now, but we all know who I am. If you do stuff like that, then your brain will be like, why are you doing that? That's not who we are. That doesn't make sense. You can't go to the gym. You can't drink water. You can't do all of this because you're not that type of person. That's what you're always saying. So before we can start to actually change who we are, we have to believe that we are that changed person. You can't just say, oh, I'm trying to do this. If you say, I'm trying to do this, it's sort of like a cop-out, like you're saying like, oh, sure, I'll stay off of cigarettes for like a few weeks, but that's just me trying, and we all know I'm going to fail. Instead, you're going to say that, oh, I'm not a smoker. Not, oh, I'm trying not to be a smoker, it's just you're not a smoker. That's not who you are anymore. It doesn't matter where you've been, it matters where you're going and what you're doing now. And if you are drinking water every day, hey, you are the type of person who drinks water every day. You're not a faker, you're not a phony, you don't have imposter syndrome. You don't have to have imposter syndrome over waking up early, going to the gym, and drinking water. If you're doing it, you're doing it. So stop telling yourself you're a faker and start telling yourself that you're happy that you've changed. And you sort of got to do this before you change. Because, yeah, our brain just wants us to fulfill our identity. If you're making a crappy identity for yourself, that's what your brain wants you to do. Your brain doesn't really place morals on what you're doing. It just wants to make sense of it. But you have to be the person in charge who says, we're a healthy person. So, specifically, how do we implement habits? To implement habits, first we need to know what habits truly are. So James Clear breaks it down like this. With a habit, we get a cue. For example, okay, wait, let me start over. Let's take my energy drink habit, a bad habit, I know, but still. So we get a cue, first of all. For example, for energy drinks, the cue will be that I'm tired. Or, the longer you have a habit for, the more cues you get. So it can be I'm tired, I just woke up, I'm bored, I'm going to bed, oh, I saw an energy drink, lots of cues. Then a craving, like, oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm craving an energy drink because I feel like it will make me more awake. Then the response is I'm grabbing an energy drink and drinking it, and then we get a reward. The reward is I feel more awake, I feel energized, I feel refreshed. Using these 4 components of a habit, we can implement a good habit and we can kick a bad habit. Let's say we want to implement the habit of drinking more water. So, for the cue, to make the cue go to water, we gotta make it obvious. So if our cue is that we're dehydrated, for example, to make it obvious to drink water, we can have water bottles around, we can have, our fridge stocked with water. We never want to run out of water, right? Because then it's an extra habit going to get the water. But if we have the water stocked beforehand, that helps. What I do is just I have water bottles lying around. Like I literally sleep with a water bottle now, and it helps me a lot. And for the craving, we need to make that an attractive option. So, for example, we can have the water chilled, have the water with cucumber, have it with strawberry. Because, yeah, in a lot of ways, an energy drink for me tastes better than water. But if we can make the water tastier, it's just more refreshing, it's easier to choose the water when we get that craving. For the response, we need to make it easy. For me, easy and obvious tend to overlap a little. Like I said, with obvious, I like just having things around. But here's the difference between, for example, if we want to eat more food, having it obvious by having it on the table, and if we want to eat more like full, healthy dinners, which tends to be more difficult, making it easy by meal prepping, for example. Like a lot of the time for me personally, if I end up with an unhealthy option, whether it's an energy drink over water or a Snickers bar over salad, it's because it's easier. But if we have a full ready salad, delicious with all the nutrients we want in the fridge, it is easier to choose that. And for the reward, we gotta make it satisfying. One thing I like to do a lot to make something satisfying is using what James Clear calls temptation bundling, where, for example, if I work out, I get to watch whatever I want. So if I want to watch Netflix, a YouTube video, etc., while I'm on the elliptical, I'll do that, and I'm sort of making the experience of being on the elliptical tied into the experience of watching an awesome TV show. And to make water satisfying, You can, for example, give yourself a little reward after drinking water. A lot of what he talks about here is actually to have a good ending because you remember the ending most of all. So if you do something healthy and then like have a piece of gum that you really like, or we're going to talk about this, how we can make something this satisfying, but yes, a good ending or just in general, like I said, temptation bundling. You're having some sort of point system for yourself, like building up to something, building up to a bigger reward, that can also absolutely help. Then to kick a bad habit, if we start with Q again, for a positive habit, we want to make it obvious. So we want to make it hidden for a bad habit. For example, if I hide my energy drinks, then it's easier to forget about energy drinks. Just go get the water that's already out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. I think this will help for a lot. For example, if you're again, if you're into cigarettes and you hide your cigarettes, but you put out something else that can help you with stress relief, or if you're a big gamer and you hide your games, anything to like not get that cue. Because like I said, cues don't only come the way they start out, where they come because we're stressed or because we're thirsty or whatever, but eventually the more we get into bad habit, the more things will be a cue for us to do that bad habit. And one of the major ones is just seeing the thing in itself. Or it can also absolutely be people. And studies show that, for example, if we have obese friends, there's a higher chance that we're obese. If we have super intelligent friends, it's a higher chance that we're intelligent. Environments are really, really important. And there's this other thing that showed during the Vietnam War, lots and lots of American soldiers were addicted to opioids. However, when they came back to America, almost all of them quit opioids immediately. And the reason why they quit is because they were out of the environment. So don't just think about your physical environment, also think about your social environment and the cues you're getting. And obviously, if you're trying to quit drinking and all of your friends are drinking, you'll never get away from that cue. So for the craving, for the good habit, we're making it attractive. So we got to make it unattractive. One of the biggest ways I make things unattractive, and I know a lot of other people do this, is by knowledge. The more you know about what alcohol, for example, is doing to your brain, what energy drinks are doing to your body, or what eating meat is doing to animals on the planet, the less likely you are to want that thing. You have to really sully it for yourself and make it a little disgusting, honestly. Just as I would say that learning about what working out for you really, no, working out really does for you makes it more attractive. Learning about what these bad things are doing makes it unattractive. For me, and I believe for most people I know at least who have quit eating meat, for example, it really is because we just learned more and more about the industry until it's like, I can't do this without getting nightmares. So yeah, I would say just dive deep into knowledge. You can also absolutely look at, stuff that will give you perspective. Like I think, for example, honestly, if you're struggling with alcoholism or drug abuse, I'd say watching BoJack Horseman is like, damn, okay, that's not the best. Or like, I don't know, sometimes I do want an energy drink less when I see all of these like sweaty 14-year-old gamers with gamer rage drinking the same drinks as me. It's like, oh, that's what I'm associating myself with. Nothing wrong with those. It's just that I'm a woman in my 20s, and that's not necessarily the group I want to be associated with. It makes me feel immature, you know? Um, for the response, making it easy. So here we gotta make it difficult. One of the things I do most to make something difficult for me, like yesterday, I didn't have any energy drinks or chocolate or anything like that because it was a Sunday. All the shops were closed. I knew that beforehand, so I purposely didn't buy enough energy drinks or chocolate to last out the weekend. I I knew in my heart of hearts that I was going to be empty, and that if I really, really wanted an energy drink, I'd have to walk to a gas station and buy a super, super overpriced energy drinks. It just places all these barriers. So it's like, is it worth it? For me, honestly, if I have chocolate, I'm gonna eat the chocolate. If I don't have chocolate and have to walk to the store, chance of me eating chocolate just falls drastically. Or you can, for example, have one of those little like time saves, or you can place something highly, place something in a way which is hard to get it. And I think this will make you less likely to, for example, let's say you're a gamer and you're trying to cut down. If you place your PlayStation very highly up, you will be less likely to play because it's difficult, it takes time, and B, not only that it takes time and effort to get that PlayStation, but the time it takes might make you think twice. Sometimes I will sort of hide things from myself, like place things far away, like I said, like even the store, and it makes me like stop up and think, like, how far have I gotten in my energy drink consumption where it's worth it for me to walk an hour in the rain to get an energy drink? Like, that's sad, Zoe. And that can like actually stop me from doing it. It just gives you time to pause and think like, what am I doing? Reward, to make it dissatisfying, we have to ruin the experience. And like James Clear says, we remember the ending most, you gotta ruin the ending. For example, if you're consuming something or doing something that you shouldn't do, eat something you hate afterwards. I think if you're really into drinking beer and you like the taste of beer, you probably like the aftertaste too. So what if you eat a little bit of garlic every time after you drink a beer, just straight up garlic? That might ruin it a little. Or if you're super addicted to watching Netflix, if you end the episode 5 minutes before the actual... If you end your session 5 minutes before the actual episode ends every time, that might ruin the experience for you a lot and make you less likely to go back, because it's just when the ending is ruined, you just get a different view of it. But then on the other hand, if you're like, oh, I can watch the episode fully if I'm on the treadmill, makes it a little more likely to you to choose to watch that episode on the treadmill instead of on the couch, because then you'll get the ending and the experience won't be ruined. Yes. Also, I should have mentioned this earlier, but one thing about self-control with like the cue and making it easy and stuff like that is that people who we view as having like great self-control are actually scientifically people who avoid situations of temptation. Similar, but not the same as I talked about with the social environment, like people who don't drink as much, for example, aren't necessarily people who don't enjoy drinking, but people who stay away from situations where drinking is, because they're like, oh, if I drink, I'll be hungover and stuff like that. So if we're just better at avoiding situations of temptation, like, I don't know, walking into a place that sells cakes, the better we'll get at self-control. AKA, we just won't indulge because we won't be around it as much. Again, cues. Again, for me, implementing this and looking at specific habits I had to implement and using the system has truly changed my life. I am, for the first time in my adult life, actually happy. I get up early, I go to bed early, I drink water, I take vitamins. I'm so happy about this. And if you want to see more specific, and more specifically my habits and how I've used specific one of James Clear's tips to implement these habits, you can absolutely watch my video 10 healthy habits that have changed my life, which is 10 healthy habits that have changed my life and the specific ways of implementing them. And also, in general, next episode we will continue on with Atomic Habits and we will dive into how to make habits that last with, again, specific examples. In the meantime, please feel free to read Atomic Habits and let me know what you think. Again, link in the description. And yeah, it has always been a dream of mine to have a book club. I know I'm a giant nerd, so I would absolutely love if y'all got these books and we can talk about them and maybe even tailor the podcast episodes more specifically to what you want to explore in the book or any questions you have. It would just be really, really cool because I love books and I wanted to have this podcast, Reading for Success, because I know that knowledge is power and books change lives. They do. And that's the whole point of Zoetopia, is empowerment. So until next time, keep building those habits. See ya. Take care.